Streaming. Give me a second.
Boo. Start streaming now.
All right. We are live right now on YouTube.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank y'all. This is the Ask Junior portion of the show, and we had Austin Cindric in here as our guest just a few minutes ago. Literally just walked out of the room, and I want to let y'all know that I was really blown away by Austin's roots in motorsports. His family history is insane. Not only his father, as we know, is president of Penske, but his father's history, how he got to that point, plus his mom's history in motorsports. The kid really grew up around it, was born into it, but it was a lot of fun talking to him. He's a great interview. You're going to enjoy learning about our this year's Daytona 500 champion. But we got some great questions that you guys have all sent in on Twitter to Ask Junior, and Hannah's going to tee them up for us, so let's go.
Well, first and foremost, the question that Paula Gunderman asked, as well as pretty much everyone else on Twitter, it seems like, are the Dale Jr. Download episodes being televised?
Well, this one is. So Mike's got some information here for you.
I'm happy to report that this week's episode is going to be on Peacock. It debuts on Peacock Thursday afternoon, March 17th, 6 p.m., the Austin Cindric episode. And it says Friday, the Al Unser Jr. episode airs. So
6 p.m.
Yep, all episodes will be available on demand on Peacock. And that also includes last year's shows, which I've already seen. Those are there. Those have been there for a couple weeks. So you can go see all of our season from 2021 right now.
Yeah, so you can go to Peacock and you can start watching. You can watch all our past stuff, but you can start watching new episodes this week. We have been recording the episodes this year that we've been doing up to this point, so those possibly could make TV as well and be available to you, such as case in point the Al Unser Jr. Interview. But yeah, going forward, everything's going to be on Peacock. We're excited about that, and we feel whole again. So yeah, hopefully you guys are going to be enjoying the TV version of the podcast, but it's an abbreviated 30-minute version of about an hour and a half long podcast. So you're going to be missing out on some of the great content if you don't listen to the whole thing.
All right, next one comes from Scott. How are the next-gen cars adjusted during the race? There's no track bar or wedge that can be cranked in now.
Come again.
There's no track bar or wedge that can be cranked in now, so how are the next-gen cars being adjusted during the race?
Yeah, I mean, there's still ways that they can change wedge and stuff. They have to go under the hood. We saw that somewhere a couple weeks ago where they had to go underneath the hood, actually raise the car up off the ground. I think it might have actually been Fontana with as bumpy as that racetrack is. So there's ways to make adjustments to the cars. It does take a little bit more time. They can do wedge. If you think of a traditional shock collar on a coilover spring, it'd be similar to that. But I think they're still able during pit stops and so forth. They're a little bit more limited on the adjustments they can make in terms of the old car, but during practices and so forth, even as abbreviated as they are, they're still trying front sway bars and all types of things. So there's tons of components that are still similar to the old car that they're changing during these practice sessions. Obviously, they're not getting a lot of time to really go in and science all this stuff out. So it's going to be a process throughout the year to see what changes are doing what, because we sit here and talk to Austin Cindric, and he said the biggest problem for him is a lot of things that he's learned in terms of some of the technical stuff on the car, like what a right rear spring might do, or what a bigger sway bar might do. All that stuff has to be relearned because it might not apply the same way to this car. You put a bigger front bar, it might do something completely different than what you were expecting it to do. And so, and a lot of the aero stuff is very foreign to him as well, as far as how the car is affected in traffic and so forth. So it's a learning process for everybody going forward. Matthew, you got something to add?
They still have. You've been in one of them. Do they still have the brake bias adjustment?
Yeah.
The drivers can do.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Cranking front brake into him.
Yeah.
Next one, Chris Murphy. A question after the DEI show last week. How did DEI end up with the car numbers it had? 8 is obvious, but what was the connection to 1 and 15?
Well, the 15 I think was Dad. Maybe Dad. I'm just going to guess here. I don't really know this for sure, but the connection to the 15 was, I believe, Dad's history with that number with Bud Moore. He ran that number when he drove for Bud Moore in 82 and 83. And the 1, somebody's going to beat me. Somebody's going to do better than me here, but I think Dad wanted the number 1 because it's the number 1. I can't remember any other reason why we would have went after that number, but I think it was because of it. It's the number 1.
Yeah.
There's no history to it that we have, but I think Dad appreciated the prominence of the number itself.
Great question. I've never thought about that.
I never even thought of that either.
Yeah.
Kind of going a different direction. I've actually had a couple people ask this in the YouTube chat. Obviously, you have investments in late model racing, but have you yourself ever thought about going and maybe trying to run the Snowball Derby?
No. Yeah. No, man. I don't know. I would probably regret not trying to do some of those things, when I was younger. I'm probably going to regret that a little bit, or not knowing what going and doing that would be like or feel like, or what those. I've never drove a super late model ever. I drove kind of an outlaw late model at Shady Bowl Speedway,
like the wedge body ones.
Yeah. Had where you could see through the car because it had no rear bumper. So I kind of, but I never drove like a left-handed, super
Offset,
late model like with Concord or anything like that. So, I always looked at, I was, to a fault, I was really loyal. So when I got into late model stocks, I was like, that's the best late model style racing there is. This is better than supers. This is better than pros. This is, I'm loyalist and to a fault, and thought driving late model stocks was a better experience or better for you, whatever. It's not true, but so I probably steered myself away from driving supers or ever trying them.
It's crazy how localized late model stocks is to the southeast,
For
too.
sure.
Because I didn't even really know about them being from the West Coast until I moved out here.
They're only in the mid-Atlantic part of the country, and that is a unique thing about them, where supers and pros are all over the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah.
Speaking of late model stock, too, did you happen to watch Carson Cooper, of course, driving the Junior Motorsports car this year? Cash a $30K check this weekend at the Cars Tour race at Caraway.
That was amazing, and we're excited about Carson. Travis and I never really had a relationship of any kind when we raced against each other. I knew him, he knew me, but we didn't otherwise just, walking by and waving, saying hello in the garage was it. I'm excited to get to know him better, get to know more about his family. They're racers. They're true racers. It's what they do. It's what they're committed to. He's so entrenched in his sons' racing and their futures and what they're doing now. It's admirable. I want to know more. I want to be involved. It may, when you're around, when you watch him and them work together and go to the racetrack, Mill Bridge, or run their pro or their super late model, wherever they go, it makes me curious to know more about them and get to know them as people. Carson's a cool kid, quiet, unassuming. He won the biggest late model stock race of his career. This race next to the Martinsville race is maybe one of the biggest ones this year. The 30,000 to win car store race at Caraway this past weekend, and he got out and had no clue what he had done, and And so I just appreciate how new and innocent he is to all of it, even though he's a racer and he's got a lot of experience. I mean, what he's doing with us is kind of a new thing, and he did a great job. They pitted a 200-lap race. They pitted at lap 100. You can get 2 tires. The rest of the field came at lap 150. So he was sitting out there in the lead with 60 laps to go with 50 lap more, 40 lap more laps on his tires, and held him off convincingly. Drove so smart at the end. I was so proud of him. So there's going to be ups and downs. He's got to learn. The late model stock will drive differently. It'll need different things than what he's used to as far as the super. It won't get him out of trouble as easy as the super will with the motor, but he'll figure it out. I think he can drive. And
that hair's definitely fun too. He's still got that mullet.
Yeah.
Next one is from Brian W. Why don't race cars have speedometers? If NASCAR wants to be precise on pit road speeds, why don't the cars have them? RPM and colored lights just seem so easy to be foolish on.
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I mean, I bet you, they did have them at one time back in the 40s and 50s. It was a street car. They basically took a car straight off the assembly line and raced it. So it probably had a speedometer in it.
I like the fact they don't because, I mean, gosh, don't make it easier for them. Don't hold their hand. I mean, let them have to work for it a little bit. Guess that pit road speed.
Yeah, we need
Use
a good
the
Kyle
tach.
Busch meltdown after a speeding penalty every once in a while.
Where would you be without that?
Yeah.
I feel like that maybe it's time we revisit that and lose the tach. You could have a digital tach and speedometer. I don't know. Why not? I'm sure. I mean, with the technology we have, I'm sure they could put the speed on the dash.
Of course they could, yeah.
Yeah, why don't they?
You got a logo flashing
There must
up
be a
on
reason.
the dash.
There must be a reason.
I say we have digital rear view mirrors now. I
know,
feel like we
right?
can have a speedometer.
I imagine they probably can put the speed on the dash. They probably could do it right now, and I wonder why they don't.
Why don't just go ahead and give them a radio while we're at it?
Golly.
Dial,
Take the mirrors
Sirius
out.
XM subscription.
Mike's like, take the mirrors out.
Jeez.
Get rid of the
Listen to
radios.
Dirty Mo.
Are they coddled enough? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Now you're trying to stoke them.
take the brake pedal out.
Right.
Gas only.
Flintstone that thing, man.
All right. Another one here is from Izzo. As a big music fan, and you are as well, could you name a musician that you'd someday love to have on your show, or maybe a few that would come to mind? You're laughing because, you know this, Mike.
You do?
I know just for some random idea that he had just thrown at us in a meeting a few months ago that we didn't see coming. He said he wanted the dude that sings "Summer of '69." Who is that?
Brian Adams.
Brian Adams, out of the
Yeah.
blue. Brian
That was
Adams.
the most out of the blue one. Like,
Right.
I've always loved his music.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't
Who
like
saw that coming?
Summer
Yeah.
of '69?
I mean, it's a great
if you
song.
don't like that song, I don't know.
Oh, no. The song's great. I just, again, if you'd have given
All
me
right,
100
so-
guesses on musicians he would take,
Yeah.
I did not see Brian Adams anywhere.
I
Yeah.
I'm. You know that I've gotten super nostalgic, and so I've always kind of. I really don't want to ask Brian anything other than, take us back to when that was happening to you in your life. You're right. You got one of the biggest songs, and it cuts like a knife, and then he sort of had a little lull. Then he comes back with the when they had the what was the movie?
Robin Hood.
Robin Hood.
Oh yeah.
Huge.
And then he comes back and has these hit songs, and he's big again, and then then he kind of lulls back to where he was.
So he's due. He's
Well,
due for another.
No, I don't think he's due. I think it's ship
It's
sailed.
over.
Yeah, I think it's ship sailed on him. But I think it'd be cool to have someone who's kind of experienced the highs and lows and reinventing yourself. Be interesting to hear,
Matthew, why haven't you got that?
Dear Brian Adams.
John Travolta.
Whoa.
In the actor's sense,
Yeah.
he's Grease, huge. He's got Welcome Back, Kotter, and then he does Grease, and he's this huge thing, right? And then he kind of disappeared, and then he comes back with Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Now he's big again, does a couple movies.
Look Who's Talking. What was is it Look Who's Talking?
Yeah.
No, what was it?
Yeah.
I don't think so. It was some other.
Look Who's Talking.
Is that right?
Yes.
Was it? It's not like the dad and 2 kids or what? I don't know.
No. He was in Look Who's Talking. But
Okay.
anyhow, I'm just
Urban Cowboy.
Oh, that's a good one.
So he's had all these incredible highs and some lows. How do you deal? What happens? Why do you end up going? How do you disappear and then come back? Right?
Because they can. I know it. Like they can't. I mean, they take a couple years off.
Aerosmith would be another one because so Aerosmith, right? They had the big hits in the 70s. They kind of went away, faded into oblivion, and then boom, they come back.
Permanent vacation.
They become one of the biggest things again, right? How does that happen?
I don't know, but we got some LA people in the room, and I'm sitting there, just throwing glances over there to them, just saying, hey, like maybe they just have Aerosmith in their phone. I don't know.
Lightning striking twice is the theme.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I got you.
That happens in all types of entertainment, but I think it's interesting when, like, you're on top of the world, you. In a sense, maybe this is overstating it a little bit. You lose it all, and then you back on top of the world. Did you think it was ever going to happen again?
Yeah.
Give me an racing example.
A.G. Allmendinger.
Yeah. But I mean, we know what happened to him. We know why.
Sure.
Yeah, but we know why. We know that story.
Yeah, but it's cool to. Yeah, I get it. I
want to know. No, give me the racing example of the person that disappeared and we don't know where they went, why they went there.
L.W. Wright?
They came back.
Oh, they came back. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I'll have to think about that one.
I'm prepared to sit on this stream and think about it, actually, until I come up with an answer.
All I know is, Brian Adams, I didn't like that idea until you explained it.
Let's just say a racer didn't go away, but they won a huge race. They went a long spell without anything, and then they come back and win a huge race, and that was their win. Like somebody like that.
I thought Trevor Bain's not far from that.
Yeah, true.
Trevor Bain's very similar. Yes. So that's a great one.
That is a good one, actually.
Very good. That's a great analogy because Trevor goes away. A lot of people don't know where he went. A lot of people don't know what he's been up to the last couple of years, and now he's back in a big way, literally running right up front like he's never left.
The problem is that you've got guys that do it in different eras, but to go away completely is tough.
Yeah, it is. So, anyways, that to me, that underdog story, the redemption story, that's the hook.
Only on Ask Junior do we go from Brian Adams to Trevor Bain, and they have
with
something
a little
in common.
Aerosmith in the middle.
Yeah.
Anytime you get some Aerosmith, I'm good.
All right, last question here comes from Dustin Harding from our chat. We often see drivers like to race in multiple disciplines of racing nowadays, getting in just about anything they can. Do you think we'll see a day where Kyle Larson will try and run the Indy 500?
Yeah, I mean, he's talked about it. I think that he'll get to a point in his life when he starts to really take stock in his age and his how long if he's going to run the Indy 500, he wants to run it to win it. And he needs to do that in a certain period of time before he ages himself out, right? And his chances of being competitive in a competitive car and all that goes away. So I think that he has plenty of time to worry about this. He doesn't have to be in a hurry, but if he wants to do it, he'll eventually start to really take some serious stock in making that choice and doing the things that put him in the position to be able to do that. So I think if we're betting, I put my money on him actually absolutely running it, maybe more than once. Especially I think that his the only thing that gets in the way really is the manufacturer's sponsorships, conflicts like that. Those are the only limiting factors for a driver in today's era of motorsport. It's not years ago you could drive one make and then hop in another make and not, you could work it out. You could massage everything to keep everybody happy, but nowadays, like, he can't. If it's got to be a Chevy, it's got to be something aligned with Chevrolet, or it's got to be something aligned with his partners, and getting all that right is sometimes impossible. That's the biggest roadblock.
Alex Zanardi
disappeared.
Alex Zanardi is on top of the IndyCar world. Has that bad crash in 2000. Loses his legs.
Yeah.
He's out of the motorsports world completely. A few years later, he's competing in Paralympics and bicycles, and then he's back in a race car.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
But I feel like he stayed in headlines.
Yeah, he didn't disappear, but we also know why.
Trevor moved to Tennessee and opened a coffee shop.
Yeah.
It was good coffee shop.
Good attempt. I like your
Trying.
All right. Well, that is it this week for Ask Junior.
All right, everybody. I appreciate all the great questions. Some good questions, man. Some thought-provoking
Fantastic.
questions.
Yep.
And it's been a good show.
It has been.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you what, Austin Cindric, didn't know what to expect with him, but was pleasantly surprised. And, yeah.
Yeah. Austin is he's been around